Hey there, happy gardeners. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you visited before. I'm Fanula, and I live and garden in Zone 9B, Petaluma, beautiful Northern California. Hey, it's January. It's a gray day. We've had rain, we've had frost, we've had all kinds of things that tell us we're right in the middle of winter, which we are. But even though it's the middle of winter, there are so many gardening chores to be done if you want a gorgeous garden these coming seasons. Spring is really right around the corner. It's hard to believe on a day like this, but now's the time to do those chores so that your garden is going to look gorgeous in spring. So what we're going to talk about today is rose pruning, deciduous tree pruning, including fruit trees. We're going to talk about soil prep for spring, touch briefly on a couple of perennials that you're going to need to be cutting back and taking care of so that they look good and take off in the spring. We're going to talk about compost, and we're going to talk about how to plan for your spring garden. So yeah, let's get going. Okay, well, first up, January chores, we're going to talk about rose pruning. It is definitely time to prune your roses. And as you can see with this gorgeous rose, I might have even left it a little late, but better late than never. So in January, your roses are supposed to be dormant, or at least going dormant. We've had a few frosts, we've had rain, we've had all kinds of weather, yet this rose has not gone dormant yet. So I'm going to force it into dormancy. I've got my gloves, I've got my pruners, I've got my loppers just in case there's any big branches that my wonderful falcos can't handle. They're beautifully sharpened, and I'm going to get going on this. As you can see, this is a tree rose, and a lot of people think, pruning a tree rose is a little tricky. It's not. You're basically doing the exact same thing with a tree rose as you would if it was a bush rose. This one is Pope John Paul II. Beautiful, big, white, fragrant rose. Love it very much. And I'm going to make a start on it. You can see it's very happy here, very vigorous. So to get it into the shape I want it to be for next year's bloom production, I'm going to be cutting it back pretty hard. Yeah. You're going to cut to an outward facing bud. Cut off any small, weird little interior strange growth. Cut out crossed branches. My goodness, anything smaller than the diameter of a pencil, you're going to cut that out. I'm going to save some of these blooms. Quite often I'll start pruning, I'll get off a lot of the growth just so I can see what I'm working with in there. So this may take a while. Okay, here's a beautiful cane right here, nice and big and fat, beautiful outward facing bud. You cut maybe a quarter to a half an inch above at a slight bit of an angle. I'm really happy with that one, except we've got a big crossed branch right here, so that one is going to come off. And this one. You get the picture. We could be doing this for like an hour. Obviously, this one rose bush is going to take me quite some time. I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done. So we've pruned our roses, and we've looked around our gardens, and we've done the soil prep. Now you can really see if you've got any space left to plant new roses. And that is the most fun thing to do in the month of January. This is when all the nurseries and garden centers are going to have the best choices possible. You can see behind me here, we're filling up with hybrid teas and floribundas and all kinds of fabulous roses. this is when you're going to find your new rose for 2025. So, new fruit trees, new roses. January is a fabulous month for gardeners. Another super fun thing to do in January is to source bare root fruit trees. This is a great time of year to do that. The nurseries all have their best choices of the whole year. And there's always a few really hard to find things, like Persian mulberries or Pakistan mulberries. And persimmons, for heaven's sakes, this is a time of year to grab your persimmon. Bare root fruit trees are dormant, easy to plant, but really right now is the time to get the best choices. So yeah, have fun. I mean, look at everything that's here. It's amazing. It's also time to prune your deciduous trees, including fruit trees. And this little pear is a perfect example. You can see last year's growth, and here it is. You want to cut this back, prune it, keeping in mind what you want your fruit tree to look like in the future, or what other kind of tree you might be pruning. Like I said, this pear is just a perfect little example of how to prune a deciduous tree. Same thing that we just did with roses. You want to prune to an outward facing bud to encourage the growth to go that way, outwards, not inwards. You can see the little buds right there. You want to prune above, but not too far above. And you also want to take off any strange branches going the wrong direction. The first couple of years are really important with your little fruit trees. Come on in and talk to me anytime, get some advice, because each kind of fruit tree is a little bit different, and you're going to want to watch for different things with each tree. A pear is one thing, apples are another, peaches are a whole other thing too. So this just gives you a little idea, but like I said, come on in, let's talk about it anytime. So January, end of January, when we've had a few frosts already, but spring is coming, the days are getting a little bit longer. Great time of year to prune and tidy back your perennials. As you can see, this huge Deciduous or Mexican marigold, definitely time to cut that back. I'm going to be cutting that back by half. It's also a great time to prune your lavenders back. As you can see, we did this one maybe about a month ago. So if you haven't pruned your lavenders back, any of your grossos or Provence or any of the angustifolias, time to get it into that nice tight mound. January is the time. You also want to prune your clematis. Cut that back hard. You're going to start seeing little tiny buds on them. Now's the time to do it. You want to cut it back really hard and feed it so they can take off and give you incredible blooms this coming spring. So right now I want to talk about soil. Believe it or not, January is a really great time to start thinking about your drought-tolerant landscape. And something that you really need to know about drought-tolerant plants in general is that none of them want to have their roots sitting in the water. So January, after it's rained a few times, when it's cold and it's just like at its worst basically, it's a great time to check your soil's drainage. And the way you're going to do that is to dig a hole and see if there's water in it. It's a great time to do it right after a big rain shower. But if it hasn't rained recently, dig that hole, fill it with some water, and watch how quickly it drains. If it drains quickly and nicely and drains away and there's no water sitting in the hole after 5 or 10 minutes, then you're all set. If, on the other hand, that water is still sitting in there, you're going to want to amend your soil to get it prepped and ready for your drought-tolerant plants by adding compost or cactus mix or something that's going to increase that drainage. So once you've got your compost added, you're going to really want to dig it in. Mix it up so that your sticky soil is mixed with compost and you've increased the drainage capacity. Test it again, and then you're safe to plant your drought-tolerant plants. The other great thing about this time of year is prepping your soil for spring planting. Again, compost or soil booster, steer manure, some earthworm castings. Mix it all up really well in all your garden beds, and your spring plantings are going to be thrilled to bits. So, more about compost. If you make your own compost, this time of year you're going to want to make sure that it is staying aerated, don't forget about it, and that it's not getting too soggy. So if you know there's a downpour predicted, cover it up with a tarp or something, because you're going to want that compost for your spring plantings in time for tomatoes and things like that. So in January, there are still so many wonderful greens that you can plant. There's bok choy and pak choy and tatsoi and various wintergreen blends and kale. It's absolutely incredible what you can still plant here in Zone 9B in January. There's peas and spinach and mosh, and all of these will be harvested by the time that you're going to want that space for your tomatoes. Hey, so we talked about getting your garden ready for spring planting. You know, when you want to get your tomatoes and your peppers and your squash and everything going. Well, January, believe it or not, the tail end of January, you can start seeding those veggies indoors. Obviously, it is way too cold to put them outdoors right now, but it's indoors, nice, mild little indoor climate. It's time to get your tomato seedlings in. So plant your seeds carefully, plant your pepper seeds. You're going to just be so thrilled to bits when they start germinating and popping the little heads up from the soil. So yeah, that's what you're going to be doing in your gardening. Don't forget your weeding, of course, and pruning back all those other perennials. Watch for pests, watch for aphids, especially on your hellebores. Right now, for some reason, aphids are really loving the hellebores. So watch for your slugs and snails and aphids. They all thrive in this cool weather. Stay on top of your weeding. If you've got nectarines or peaches, you want to give them one more spray if you've been suffering from peach leaf curl, which we generally do here in Northern California. And I think that's kind of it. We covered soil prep, we covered lavender, we covered pruning perennials and deciduous fruit trees and vines. We covered roses and shopping for roses. And basically, January is not a quiet time. There is so much gardening fun that you can still have. So there we go. Happy gardening. Bye-bye.